Good evening folks, 21st Century Caveman here. Hope everybody's safe, hope everybody's well. So today we're going to discuss how to make a very strong cheap gate using decking boards. Now I'm going to do this in two parts just to make sure that I cover the detail as clearly as possible. So in today's video I'm going to show you how myself and my son made the frame, and in the second video I'm going to show you how we constructed the finished gate, how we fitted the hardware and how we installed it. Now these videos will complement the previous 5 videos I've made on how to make a very strong cheap fence using decking boards. So in today's video I'm going to keep the voiceover to a minimum so as not to distract my viewers, but I will of course chirp in every now and again where I think further clarification may be required. So in other words, I'm not going to waffle just for the sake of it. So basically we've taken measurements for the gate, we've selected our timber, we've measured up and we're cutting it to size. And in order to cut the timber we're using an Evolution single bevel compound Mitre Saw reference R210 CMS.
That is in the middle.
So here you can see we're marking up where we're going to fit the cross members, and I'm going to secure these in place using 2 screws. One is going to be a 100mm turbo gold screw and the second will be a 150mm or 6-inch coach screw, which I used to secure the framework for the walls on the man cave. So here you'll see that I'm doing a first fit basically of the framework, and I'm securing the timber parts together using 100mm turbo gold screws. So one of those is going to stay in each joint, and I'm actually going to use a second screw in order to make a pilot hole for a much larger coach screw. And the reason I'm doing this is quite simply because I don't have a drill bit long enough to make a pilot hole, so I'm going to use the screw instead. And the key thing to note about this is the fact that if you're going to use a screw like this to make a pilot hole, it's important that you don't screw the head of the screw below the surface of the timber, because when you pull it out it's going to break the surface of the timber when you retrieve the screw. Not even a millimetre out though. That's absolutely perfect.
Right in there.
Perfect. So to summarise then, in each joint there are going to be 2 screws. One is going to be a 100mm or 4-inch turbo gold screw, and the second will be a 150mm or 6-inch coach screw, and the screws will make sure that these joints are held together very tightly. So basically we've got two very substantial screws here which will make sure that those joints are pulled together tightly and held securely.
Changes round to get really hot when you drill them into the wood. And drill them out again. So if you watch me assemble the man cave, you will have noted that I use these here. So these are 6 inches long, these are very strong, and so the hex head, and there is a bit in here somewhere at the bottom if I can find it. So that's what it looked like anyway, and that's going to be one of the main fixers. And as you can see, look, it will go in there and provide a very good fix indeed for the frame, and that will certainly be strong enough for our needs. And I'm going to countersink the head of that just below the surface. Okay folks, so we've secured each join with two substantial screws. Now we need to brace this door, we need to brace the framework, okay? And the way we're going to do that is run two pieces of timber diagonally, but we have to do this in a particular way. And the reason we're bracing it is to make sure that we keep the door square, because gravity is actually going to force the door down on one side. It's going to make it sag, so we need to brace it. In other words, we need to put something there which is going to stop it from sagging. So what we're going to do then, and incidentally the timber we're using here is treated C16 construction timber, and the reason why we're using construction timber is because it's stronger, and it's stronger because it's grown slower. It hasn't got anywhere near as many knots in it, and also the actual fibres are a lot tighter. So basically what I'm saying is the timber is more dense, and therefore it's going to be stronger, and because it's more dense also it means it's going to hold a screw a lot tighter. I mean, look, I need to make it clear that I'm not a joiner, but I know enough to know that the information I'm giving here is correct. So we're going to have two pieces of timber then to brace the door, and the thing you've got to remember is the fact that they've got to go in the same direction, and the bottom bit, that's the top there, this is going to be the bottom, and the hinges are going to be on this side. So what you've got to remember is the fact that the side with the hinges, it needs to be at the bottom.
So here you'll see one of the downsides to this Mitre saw. Basically the diameter of the blade isn't sufficiently wide to cut the timber. Now you can get sliding bevel saws, and I think if I was to buy one of these saws I'd get one with a larger diameter blade just to make it a bit more versatile really. But other than that, this is an absolutely fantastic, lightweight, excellent value for money Mitre saw, and I would highly recommend it. So as you can see, we're fixing each end of each brace using two 100mm turbo gold screws, and these will help to ensure that this frame remains square and very strong.
So this is the way to brace the door then. So basically when you secure it with hinges on one side, the braces are at the bottom so that when gravity is forcing it down, trying to make it sag and push it out square, this brace will act as a prop and keep it nice and square, one at the top, one at the bottom. So that's the way you do it. And what we're going to do, we're going to have the decking boards just going across like that. We'll try and match them up with the boards on either side of the fence, try and match up the boards, you know, the gaps, etc. But that's basically what we're going to do. Obviously we need to stain it before we go much further, but yeah, so we're, you know, a decent way there. Right guys, so full disclosure here, yesterday when me and my lad left the property, all was well and good, and then 3 o'clock in the morning I thought, oh crap, I've actually made a mistake on the door frame. And the reason's quite simply because what I forgot to do was to drop this top rail down about 3 inches or so. So in other words, it should have been in round about this position here. And the reason is quite simply because if I don't, then there's going to be nothing at the top here for this part of the hinge to fix to. So rather than having to sort of like rebuild the frame and faff around, what we've done, look, we've cut a couple of new bits of timber. One there, look, which is fitted in there nicely. We're going to glue and screw it. Same at the bottom there. And what that means is basically we can attach the hinges to the frame like that, and the timber which we're going to fix the hinge to, which is going to be the same length as this piece of timber here, look, we've got something to fix the hinge to. Okay, so that took about just sort of like 5 minutes to do, just to mark it and cut it on both of those. So we're now going to glue it and screw it into place, and that'll be absolutely rock solid. It's added a little teeny bit of weight to the frame, but it ain't nothing that major that we need to rethink anything. The other thing is, of course, that these are 400mm heavy duty hinges. I've used these on the door for the man cave. They're really, really strong. So for the small additional weight, even when we start putting the decking boards and start cladding it out, that isn't going to be any problem whatsoever. So we're going to have one hinge there, going across there, one across the middle, one across the bottom. Boom, schmicko.
So here we're using some Gorilla wood glue. I purchased this at a very good price from either Aldi or Lidl several months ago. I didn't need it at the time, but once again I knew I would be using it at some point in the future, so I decided to make the purchase at the time because it was at a very good price. And this is the product which we're using to secure these timbers together in order to give it additional strength. So here we're using some no-nonsense decking stain, which is perfect for an application like this. It's a very good price. It's about £9.99 for 2.5 litres, purchased from Screwfix. So this is a very good product. Here you'll see that we've actually applied 3 coats of the stain, and we've just started to do the decking boards here, look, which we're actually going to use to finish off the gauge. So look guys, we've come to the end of the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. So please join us in the next video, where I will show you how we constructed the finished gauge, how we fitted the hardware, and how we installed it. Thank you for watching. Good night.